Hi, welcome back to Taji's World of Books, and this is my weekly reading wrap-up. Hi everybody, welcome back, and this is my weekly reading wrap-up, and I have done what I've done in the past. I filmed a couple clips that we'll get to so I can give you my thoughts fresh off the press on certain books that I've read. This week I read a total of 10 books, and that goes from Friday to Thursday, this Thursday. And I read more series, so I read the prequel to the Bridgerton series, which consists of 4 books. Then I read Colleen Hoover's Slammed series, and then I read a couple of standalones. So without further ado, let's get to the clips. Hey everybody, so I just wanted to jump in and film a couple of clips on my thoughts on the prequel to the Bridgerton series. And so Julia Quinn was approached to write more about the Bridgertons because people obviously loved the Bridgertons, and when that sort of 8 books or whatever was finished, they wanted her to give them more. And so rather than go forward, people thought that she was going to write more about the children of the Bridgertons. She decided to go backwards. And so these are the prequel novels to the Bridgerton series. And so this one is Because of Mrs. Bridgerton. And see, this one is about Billy Bridgerton. And the Bridgertons, in the way it's set up here, are very closely linked. They're neighbors with the Roxbys. And I think that's how you say it. Yeah, the Roxbys. And they live, like 5 minutes away. And so in the Roxby clan, I think there are like 3 brothers and 1 sister. And then there's Billy Bridgerton and the Bridgerton branch, their branch of the Bridgertons. And so then this is, because they are all friends, this is a friends to lovers, but it's also like an enemies to lovers. It's a friend in the sense that Billy and then the Roxby, the Roxby brother in this book is George, have known each other forever and ever and ever, but they don't get along because their personalities clash. And so for what it is, I thought it was interesting. It was refreshing. It was light. The story takes off where, Billy is supposed to be this really, like, independent, take charge, kind of, she does what she does regardless of the consequences. She wears breeches, she, falls and breaks her arm, but she gets back up and she really does whatever task she was doing all over again. So she's a take no prisoners, no holds barred, kind of modern woman, but that's set in the Georgian times. So it's like in the 1700s. And she really wins George over, and it's a slow burn type romance. And I think for what it is, it was well done. Having come off of like the high fantasy and reading the King of Scars and the Rule of Wolves and the Six of Crows duology and all of that, like fast paced, this was kind of like, it was light. You finish it in half a day. It's a really short, and and it's sweet, and you get to hear, as Julia Quinn does. I like that the narrator in this particular book is the same narrator that does the Bridgerton series, so you feel like you're back in that world again. And you're back with the gentry, and you're back with London society, and taking a season in London and having your dresses and just that like gallant old time. So I think, again, for what it really was, and then it's a slow burn in the sense that George doesn't really acknowledge or recognize that he's falling for Billy, and Billy recognizes that she's falling for him, but she's like, is she really? And so she kind of tries to hide it. So it's just sweet and very straightforward. Okay, now this one I think I'm going to have more to say about, because this is The Girl with the Make-Believe Husband. This is book 2 in this spin-off series, and I believe there are only 4. So I'm reading the Other Mrs Bridgerton right now, and then there comes Scandal, and that's really it for these prequels. So in this particular book, sorry, this is my son's toy. The Girl with the Make-Believe Husband. This is everything. So this is the story of Cecilia Harcourt, and then Edward, who is Edward Roxby, who is the youngest brother. George is the oldest, Andrew is the middle, and Edward is the youngest. Yes. So this book is everything that I despise about historicals. She lies to him this entire book. She basically, his best friend is her brother Thomas, and she receives a missive that says that Thomas, now they have been writing back and forth because her brother and Edward are best friends. So she kind of knows him through the correspondence, and whenever they correspond, she would throw a note in or something. So they were really courting each other, if you will, in those correspondence prior to this. Okay, present day, she gets a missive in the mail that says, your brother has been injured, you need to come quickly. Or it doesn't say you need to come quickly, but it's basically he's been injured and he's missing in action. So she decides to take a voyage across the sea and go to New York to find out, because he's fighting in the King's army in the province of New York, to find out what happens. When she gets there, she doesn't find Thomas, but she finds Edward. And when she finds Edward, she basically won't be allowed to be by his bedside and be in the hospital unless she is a relative or she's married. So she says she's married. But when he wakes up, she can break this lie and basically tell him what's going on. And she doesn't. And I'm not going to give away any spoilers, but she lies to him throughout this entire novel. And each time she says something, and she acknowledges it, each time I open my mouth, I lie more and more and more, and it gets deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And I don't like the double standard, because if this were a man that were lying to his woman in this way, we would all be pissed. And it's not until the last 20 pages or 10 pages of the book does she really come clean. And she doesn't really come clean until, and the way that she comes clean is kind of messed up. And I just was ticked off at her. And I was ticked off that, like, he is just supposed to forget it. And he just forgives her, and he's like, you know, whatever, like, and they move on, and like, it's not really addressed. And I don't like that. Like, I would, if it were a dude that were lying to me like that, like, I'd be pissed, and he'd have to, I'd hold him to task for it. And just the same way that I would expect that if a female were lying in that way to her partner, how are you going to start a relationship off on a lie? And not only did you start it off on a lie, because I understood, and I understand why she lied. I get it. I don't have a problem with that. What I have a problem with is that she prolonged it for however long and didn't come clean until she was absolutely forced to, and then she was just like, I was scared. So what? Like, that's no different for me than somebody who's cheating just for the sake of cheating, just because they can't grab the balls to be able to step up and be like, look, I need to get out of this relationship, it's not working for me. Like, I get if you're torn, if it's an emotionally trying situation, if it's a different dynamic, like whatever, but this was not that. Like, there were many opportunities that she could have come clean, and she didn't, and this is what I don't like about historicals. So the story, I loved it because it was angsty, and it was really good, and it brought a layer, and I liked their relationship, and I liked the slow burnness that they were falling for each other, because he recognizes that I have memory loss, I don't remember getting married to you, like, whatever. There's a whole story behind it. And so they get to know each other over time. So I love that part of it. But the part about the lying and her not being called to account, and then him just forgetting about it, took this from a 4-star to a 3-star for me. Because I just want everybody to be held accountable. I just didn't like that piece of it. And so, I don't know. Like, maybe I'm on a soapbox. Like, if you guys feel differently. And I've gotten into debates and conversation with people online about lying. Like, is lying okay? It's often used in historicals because, you know, women say, well, that's the only power that we have, which is information, and so we had to use what we have. What do you think about that? Is lying by omission? Like, if I don't tell you something, and if I keep something to myself and I hide that, am I lying? And then what do you think about the double standard? Like, in terms of women doing that, and it's okay, but if a man does the same thing to us, is that okay? So, like, what do you think about that double standard, and does it ever come into your mind, or am I reading more into this and it's not even a big deal and I just need to let it go? Anyway, we're going to go back to the rest of the clip, and I'll finish up the review of the rest of the spin-off series of the Bridgertons. Okay, so that was my first set of reviews, and so I feel like I was a little bit aggro this week, and so just bear with me. It is what it is, right? Sometimes you're gonna have a good reading week, and other times you maybe not so much. So let's go to the next clip. So I am finishing up the prequel to the Bridgerton novels. I went ahead and finished the Other Mrs Bridgerton. This is a pirate story of the middle brother, Andrew James Ropsky, and he basically, this book did what I really disliked about this book. He lies to her. So let me start from the beginning. So Poppy Bridgerton, who basically becomes the aunt to all the Bridgertons because Poppy is the younger sister of the brother who marries the Bridgertons' mom. Okay, so she's the aunt to all the Bridgertons that we know and love. Okay, so Poppy, fiercely independent, adventurous, she does her own thing. She's visiting a family member. She goes out on a walk. She stumbles upon a cave. She sees something she shouldn't, and it's a captor-captive situation. They take her hostage, and it's like a double captor-captive. Like, Andrew is a pirateer, so he's working undercover for the British government, and as a result of him working undercover for the British government, he's posing as he's not a pirate, but he's a privateer, and trying to get like secrets and information. So they're sailing to Portugal. So he takes her captive, they sail to Portugal, and then again they are taken captive a second time. Okay, so this book did what I didn't like about my make-believe husband, in that he lies to her the whole time. He knows exactly who she is. Now, his reasons for lying are a little bit different than, what's her name, Cecilia's reasons. His reasons are that he's keeping secrets, and he is prevented from disclosing why he's on a mission and what he's doing, and if he discloses that to her, then that might ruin the mission. Okay, but still, I feel like there is a point at which he could have come clean to her about who he was, because he knows he's a nobleman, right? And he's part of the Tom, and he knows her family and their family because he's a Ropesby, and so their families are quite close. They live very close to one another, and he never really does come clean. And it's at the very end of the book where they, discover, and she doesn't really say anything about it. Doesn't really call him out for it, and so I don't know, like, I thought it was innocent and sweet, and for what it was better than the other book. But believe it or not, despite all my feelings about this, I feel like this was the book that I liked the most, even though I didn't like that she lied to him the whole time. I didn't like that he lied to her the whole time over here either. These books are they're not as good as the Bridgerton books to me. They're the prequel, the story before the Bridgertons. It's like, okay, they're like 3-4 stars for me, 3 stars more so. So anyway, so that's this book, and it's like whatever. Okay, so then the last book in this series, which I was glad to be done with, which is Georgiana Bridgerton's story with Nicholas Rikesby. This is a friends to lovers type. She is kidnapped in the beginning of the book, and as a result of this kidnapping, her reputation is ruined. And as a result of her ruined reputation, his father comes to him and says, this is my goddaughter, and you have to marry her. And he's like, what? I don't have to marry her. And he's like, yes, you do. And so he's it's a forced marriage, but they're supposed to fall in love with each other over time. Georgiana gets on my nerves. He gets on my nerves. She gets herself into these situations that you just are like, oh, that could have been resolved. She's headstrong. She's going to do whatever she wants to do. And I get that. Listen, I'm headstrong, and I'm going to do what the hell I want to do, regardless of what anybody tells me, but I don't put myself in dangerous situations. And I feel like she puts herself in potentially dangerous situations that ultimately could get her hurt just for the sake of her exerting her independence. For me, there's a way to exert your independence and be a boss and do what you need to do and not let anybody tell you what to do, but not be dangerous about it. So I don't know. So ultimately, I did like their romance. I did like once they got together and were on the same page. But Georgiana bothers me in that you know, I guess like if I were at work all day and doing my thing and like busy with stuff and like had a lot going on, and then as soon as I hit the door, the first thing I get bombarded with is all this stuff, I'd be pissed too. And I would be like, what the hell? But you know, so I guess I just didn't get it. And that's why I struggle with historicals. And I know, like, right, like, as I'm sitting here, like, I have all these historicals, right? But I keep trying, and I just keep going. I don't freaking get it. Like, it just ticks me off, and I don't like how women are treated. I don't like how women complain constantly. I just don't like it. It just is, like, I guess I don't see myself in that, and like maybe because I'm not part of the Tom and I'm not part of an aristocrat, and I'm just like, I've worked my whole life and nobody's ever told me that I can and cannot do things, and if somebody did try to tell me I can't do something, I'm like, really? Okay. So I guess I just don't identify with these characters in that way. So for what it was a decent read, you know. I find that if I speed a book up, and I'm reading it at like 1.8. My comfortable pace is like 1.65, 1.75, something like that, depending on the narrative. But if I'm at like 1.8, I'm just plowing through it to get through it. And so for me, these are like 3 stars. So I read them and like, I'm like, okay, I did that. That's great. And almost the same, I then went into the Colleen, and I love Colleen Hoover. Like, so I went into the Colleen Hoover, her slammed novel. These are, I'm kind of slowly going through her backlist, and this is the one set that I hadn't read yet. And so I'm sort of glad that I read Hopeless first and didn't read Slammed, because I would have maybe not continued. So anyway, so I read Slammed, and this character, this is about a girl who moves with her her family after her father dies. And what the heck is this chick's name? Lakin. So it's Lakin, and then his name is Will. So Lakin moves with her mother and her brother from Texas to Michigan because her father suddenly dies of a heart attack. Okay? And when they move there, she immediately meets the dude from across the street, whose name is Will. He also has a younger brother, and the relationship ensues from there. Okay, Lakin gets on my daggone nerves. She is... First of all, I don't like the narrator's voice. She pisses me off. Lakin is super immature. She complains about things that I'm just like, seriously, fucking get over it. Like, it just, she irritates me to no end. The things and the angst that's created in here, to me, seems like artificial angst. And like, she just doesn't get it. So, okay, this spoilers, okay, spoilers, because this pissed me off. She meets this dude, Will. They like each other. They have chemistry. They go out on a date. They kiss. Like, okay, cool. The next day or two, she goes to school. She's a high school student. She's a senior. Make a long story short, she finds out he's her teacher. He basically tries to draw a line. He's struggling because he likes her. He tries to draw a line in the sand and say, like, we can't do this because here's the reason. I need to take care of my brother, and I'm going to lose my position if I get caught fooling around with you. And she doesn't get it. Like, she keeps trying to push it and trying to encourage a relationship. Now, he's weak. He doesn't just stand up and say, like, this is not happening, and, like, I need to move on, and you need to get the hell out of my house, and, like, whatever. But, like, she's just like, well, I don't understand why want to kill myself. Like, she just... And they just keep putting themselves in situations. They continue. Then her mom gets involved, and her mom is like, you know, she just marches herself into his house, doesn't even ask if she comes in, and she's like, you've got some explaining to do. And they put this guy in this, like, really terrible situation. I don't know. This book pissed me off. I must be in a mood. I can't tell you. Like, I just didn't buy it. It just didn't seem realistic. Like, I slogged through it. Luckily, it's not that big of a book. So I gave it a 3-star because I don't like to give authors that I respect, you know, a poor rating. But this one was a piece of crap for me. Okay, so then we move on to Point of Retreat. This is the follow-up, the sequel to that book. And this one, because there's legitimate angst and legitimate things, let me say, the narrator in this book it's from his point of view, from Will's point of view, so the narrator didn't piss me off because I don't have to listen to her whiny-ass voice. So, okay, so I'm cool with that. So then it's from Will's point of view, and I'm understanding Will. I get what he's saying, but at the same time, you know, Lakin is creating this angst. There's a situation that happens, for example, spoilers, Will's ex-girlfriend comes into the picture. She like tries to pursue him. Will is like, dude, I'm not into it. Like, and he does the right thing. He's like, no. So then Vaughn, the ex-girlfriend, decides to take herself over to his house, and his grandparents are there, and they let her in. And she comes in, and Will doesn't want to have a conversation in front of them, so he takes her into his bedroom, shuts the door. Stupid move, but okay, gotta create some angst. So then they go in, they have a conversation. She's like, I don't think that you really want to be with her. You're just with her because blah, blah, blah. We need to get back together because we need to try again, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, nope, I'm not doing it. I'm with Lake, and I love Lake, like, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so she starts to cry. Will is like, oh, poor thing, come. And he wants to console her. So he starts to console her, and of course what happens? Lake walks in. So she totally flies off the handle, and she's like, doesn't want to listen to him, refuses to talk to him, throws this tantrum. I'm like, girl, you need to grow. And I'm supposed to believe that you're taking care of your younger brother on your own, and you're acting like this? Are you serious? You act like you're 12 freaking years old. So maybe I'm just too old to be reading this kind of stuff, but it pissed me off. So the first half of the book, I was pissed off at her. Second half of the book, I was like, oh, this is getting better. So it got better because there was true angst, there was true situations, legit stuff that happened that needed to be addressed, and I thought that it was addressed well, and I thought that it did a good job. But overall, like, I'm like, Colleen, I have read your books. You have delivered much more than this. Don't give me this crap. What is this? So I'm going to slog through and finish this damn thing because I paid for it, but that is my thought on those. That was I should call this the rant corner because I'm just ranting and raving today. I don't know what's going on. All right, let's go back over to the other clip. Okay, so those are my thoughts. So let's go ahead and finish out this Colleen Hoover, the Slammed series. I finished This Girl, which is the final installment of the Slam series. This is Will's perspective. I felt like they did this a little bit. I don't like when authors do a retelling of the same exact story, but they do it from the POV of the other character involved. Because for me, it's just like a retelling of the same story that I've already read. Colleen Hoover did that in this book, but she did it a little bit differently in that they're together, and she's asking, because I don't want to give away spoilers since it's the third book, she's asking his perspective on different aspects of their meeting and how he felt about certain things. And so I thought the way that she did it was interesting, and I wasn't upset with it. I like this book better because it is from his perspective, and you do get to see his thoughts, and he is not as angsty as she is, and he doesn't get as riled up, although I think he is a bit of a pushover, and he acquiesces a lot to her in a way that I'm just like, be a man and like be a dude. Like, I like alpha dudes, and he's a beta. So I was just like, it was okay. Like I said, overall the entire series was a 3-star for me. Was not, for my taste, it was not Colleen Hoover's best work. This video is going to be super long. Let's just keep it going. So then after that, I was like, you know what? I need some steam. I need some spice. I need something a little bit different than what I've been doing. So let me go to my girl Kay. So I went ahead and picked up Bad, Bad, Bad. This has been on my TBR for quite some time, and I'm glad that I picked it up. It's 2 short novellas. It is, one novella is called Branch Cherry Girl, and the other is called Cher's Bad Girl, and it was spicy and steamy, and I finished it in like 2 hours, and it was straight to the point of what I needed. It's an age gap. It's one of them is my dad's best friend, and the other is my best friend's dad, so hence why you've got Bad Bad written both, different directions. Like I said, there's significant age gaps. There's the girls are 17, and the dads, the guys are like 47, I think they're 47, and it brings all, it's gonna be insta-lovey. She tells you from the very jump, like, hey, lets you know, like, right away, it's like, this is kind of insta-lovey, but she wrote it based on fandom and what her fans wanted, and so, like I said, it just delivered. It was like short, sweet, spicy, and it had it, and you got to carry through with the characters. So you got past all the angst really quickly, and you got straight to like, let's get together. But then you also got to see what happened long term with both characters, in terms of the epilogue. So I don't know, like, this is a 5 out of 5 star for me. It's what I wanted, and it delivered, and I was happy that I read it. So that was that. So then, you guys, I finally did it. I finally read Sam Mariano's Untouchable. And am I so glad that I did it. I have to say a special shout out to Jen from the Book Refuge. She was like, girl, what are you doing? Why have you not read this? And I was like, I'm gonna get on it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. And I did it. And Jen, if you're watching, thank you, my girl. I love me some Carter Mahoney. So first, okay, this video is gonna be super long, so I'm trying to get to it really fast. Okay, so first of all, this book is not on audiobook, and you know that I am a 100% audiobook reader. So for the first time, I tried out reading a full novel using Alexa on the Kindle app. And I gotta tell you, it actually works. There were times that I did not, Alexa uses the inflections, and so there are times when I was not like, oh, I'm listening to a robot read to me. Like, she actually sounded like an actress. Now, there are a couple of like little glitchy spots where it pauses, or where she'll read I like one, or if somebody says, uses an odd term, she won't know it. But for the most part, I finished this in a day. It is a bad boy bully romance. It's about Carter Mahoney is like no fucking joke. The first scene in the book is this girl is harassed by one of the guys in the school, and as a result of this harassment, she reports him, but these guys rule the school because they're the kings of the football team, and they're like, he gets kicked off the team, and so they want their revenge, and so they find her, she in a classroom, and they just open a can of whoop ass. Like, they don't hurt her, but they open a can of whoop ass on this poor damn girl, and Carter is a sick, twisted fuck, but you love him, and the story, and so then it unfolds from there. This happens like opening scene, so it unfolds from there. They bully her, they try to make, and it's of course the cheerleaders and the football players are the jocks, and so everything kind of unfolds. But I gotta tell you, you are gonna fall in love with Carter Mahoney. Carter Mahoney is like my ultimate book boyfriend. I love him. I love me some Carter Mahoney. So all I have to say is, if you like bully romance, the only downside that I didn't like about this book is that it's supposed to be in high school, and it's a high school bully romance, whereas I felt like they read more like new adult and college age kids than they did in high school. So I would have liked to have seen the timetable shifted a little bit so that this was happening in college, because this kind of stuff does still happen in freshman, sophomore year of college, like whatever. But aside for that, it delivered in so many ways. It was a 5 out of 5 star. I cannot wait to read Sam Mariano's Boy on the Bridge, because I heard that this is like Untouchable vibes. But this just set the bar at a whole nother level. I loved it, and the spice and the steam level was like, took to a whole nother place. So good. You guys, if you haven't gotten on this train, you better get on it. I'm telling you, you don't want to miss out on Carter Mahoney. I'm telling you. So just take my word for it, and just pick it up and go for it. You will thank me, and leave it in the comments below, and please tell me thank you. So that's Carter Mahoney. Woo! Love me some Carter Mahoney. Okay. I've gushed and gushed and gushed and gushed. And so then I read Carter Mahoney, and then I gotta come in and finish, A Curse So, what the heck is the first name of this? What the heck is this? One is A Vow So Bold and Deadly, but this is A Curse So Dark and Lonely. That's what it is. So I had to finish up this series, so I had it on my TBR. And I gotta say, like, A Curse So Dark and Lonely is my favorite, because that's a Beauty and the Beast retelling. And then for me, the story just goes awry from there. This is a YA fantasy story. And it's about, the typical YA stuff, right? Like kingdoms, warring, court intrigue, politics. You've got a Lilith character in here. You've got different people that are vying for the crown, different courtiers that are supporting and fighting against, this ultimate evil that's supposed to be in the realm of magic. And this one is like falling short for me, because I really am like, why do I care? Why do I care about this allied kingdom? Ren, why are you not stepping up and doing what you need to do? Like, and then Harper, why are you constantly complaining? And like, you're this girl from Washington, D.C. that winds up in this fantasy realm, and now all of a sudden you're a princess and you're supposed to have knowledge of court intrigue and politics and battle fare and being tactical, and she is always second-guessing Ren, and Ren is second-guessing her, and there's a lot of misunderstandings, and I'm midway through the book and we haven't even gotten to the battle yet, and this is supposed to be the conclusion of the story, and so I'm like, you know, so what is happening with these kingdoms and who's going to rule? And at the same time, I'm like, I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit. So I mainly am reading it because I bought it. And so if I'm reading it because I bought it and I've sped up and I can tell if I like a book in terms of the speed that I listen to the story at. If I'm listening to you at 2.0, I could give a shit. I just want to get through it. Whereas if I'm listening to it at like 1.6, 1.7, and I'm like really absorbing because I want to just soak up the page and soak up every detail, then I know that it's an amazing story. And so for me, the best of the trilogy is the first book, A Curse So Dark and Lonely. And this just is like, you extended it and made it 3 books so you can make more money, as opposed to really telling me an in-depth story. So that's kind of how I feel about that. So you guys, I'm so sorry this video is so long, but I wanted to make sure that I gave you all the content and made sure you had everything. And if you have listened to nothing that I've said in this video, go out and get you Untouchable and get on the Carter Mahoney train. You will be so grateful. At any rate, you guys, thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and you know that I upload new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, so come back and hang out with me more so we can talk about more book recommendations. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye!